I thought it would be interesting to share my journey of spell work to maybe encourage you to think about these things for yourself. I welcome the winds of the west and the spirit of water into this circle. I give myself permission to fail on this journey, to embrace the experience and move forward with new knowledge.
If you would like to learn about fairy folklore, delve into modern fairy faith spirituality, and explore fun and fanciful fairy-themed events, please subscribe to Fairy Fortunes for new videos every Friday.
Hello, my fair friends. I'm Ruby Ruse, and welcome to Fairy Fortunes. Now, for those of you who have subscribed, I have a little bit of apologizing to do, haven't I? Because I've been missing in action. I have not been responding to my email. I have not been on my social media pages, any of that. Well, I've been going through a lot, as many of us have been, definitely since 2020. For this video, I thought that rather than go on and on with all of my excuses as to where I've been and what I've been doing and all of the mental health issues I've been struggling with, I thought I would instead tell you what I'm doing about it. I decided to go ahead with my new depth year, which I'm now exploring the 7 fairy values that I have identified for myself in my practice of fairy faith. So my grand plan was to explore the 7 fairy values in depth with a very specific task in mind on how to accomplish and embody those values. And I wanted to start the year with respect. And I made the choice to focus on self-respect. How I decided to manifest self-respect was really to focus on my personal health and well-being. And so I created a spell for myself and to place a ritual around my intention for what was supposed to be the month of January and now is going to be the remainder of March and into April. I've mentioned before on my channel that I came from a magic practicing family, and that is true. We recognized each other as psychics. We had some charms that we did, but definitely my main magical mentor, my Aunt Maddie, would probably not identify herself as a witch. It wasn't until I moved to Chicago in 1998 and I met my very first magical teacher who was identifying what she was doing as magic and identified herself as pagan. And her name was Karen Jackson, and she was the founder and operator of the Temple of the Four Winds, which I'm very sad to say no longer exists. A lot of Karen Jackson is still in the spells that I write. But one of the main elements that I keep, in addition to that somewhat Wiccan pageantry into my ritual spell work, Karen Jackson had this idea that you should use the elements as considerations in your spell design. To incorporate air into the spell itself, she encourages magical practitioners to ask the question, is this spell a good idea? Something that may seem like a good idea at the time may have consequences that you should consider and evaluate. Maybe this isn't quite what I want to accomplish. Karen Jackson encouraged people to ask, will you actually do it? Fire is the active element. It's the element that embodies the will. Will you actually get up and do the thing that you want so badly? And the other part of this is, what are you willing to do? One of the things that I really appreciated about Karen Jackson is that she was very much of the mind that magic was action. Magic is not something that you believe in. Magic is something that you have to do. And that was something that I learned in my last depth year, is that there were a few things that weren't realistic. They weren't a good idea for me. They weren't something that I was actually going to do. Moving on to water, Karen Jackson wanted us to ask the question, what feelings will you encounter? Because when you put out magical energy, well, energy at all, anything, anytime that we commit to something, whether it's a magical spell or something else, there's a lot of emotion that surrounds that. It's those emotions that can either propel us forward, or those emotions can make us retreat and shut down. If you are aware of the emotions, if you are aware of those possible things that may in fact shut you down and diminish your magic, then you have an informed position and you're better capable of navigating those times and keeping that magic flowing and keep it doing. For Earth, Karen Jackson said, is it practical and is it doable? It's difficult to do a spell where you say something like, I'm going to win $1 million. Now that isn't necessarily undoable, but it might be a little impractical. This question is supposed to get you to explore, what are you really after? Are you just trying to pay your bills? And would it be more practical to write a spell that targets that idea more? In almost every spell I write, I always go back to these questions that Karen Jackson gave me to really solidify what I'm trying to accomplish, so that I can better garner success in my magical endeavors. So I decided what I wanted by asking those important elemental questions was that I wanted to manifest self-respect for myself to getting in at least 3 workouts a week. I wanted to meditate. I wanted to start cooking my meals again. That was what I wanted to manifest. And I knew that this was practical because this was something that I had accomplished in the past, and it was a good idea because I knew that I had evidence in the past that by doing these things, it improved my well-being, and it made me a much calmer and much more functional person to be able to go out into the world and contribute and give back to the universe and society. What I've built into my spell work is looking for tangible evidence of success. And instead of using the elements, I tie in the actual physical senses. I ask myself these questions: what is this going to look like? If my spell is successful, if it's working, what does it actually look like? And I don't allow myself to be metaphoric. I give myself specific things. And so I'm just going to read off what I wrote into my spell. Yes, I write down everything. I actually don't have a grimoire. I have a digital grimoire. I use Microsoft Word, and then I use Dropbox to store my magical grimoire. What does this look like? I will see my muscles tone and tighten. I will see that my weight has gone down on a physical scale. So these are actual tangible things that I can say, see, this is evidence. What will you hear? I will hear the clink of weights at the gym. I will hear my deep, slow breathing as I meditate. What will you smell? Yes, smell is important. Smell actually is a very powerful, emotive, sensory expression. They often link the sense of smell to memory. So it's important, and so I always make sure that I have something that I'm going to smell in my spell work. What will you smell? I will smell breakfast cooking in the morning. My clothes and my bed sheets will have a tangy smell of fresh laundry, and my hair will smell sweet from a fresh shower. What will you taste? Breakfast. I will definitely taste breakfast. I will taste more fresh fruits and vegetables and the coolness of more water. And then finally, what will you feel physically? As I said, I don't allow myself to speak in metaphors here. What will you feel physically? I will find it easier to climb stairs. My stomach will be settled and not growling all the time. My uniform pants and all of my clothes will feel more comfortable. I will wake up refreshed from 8 hours of sleep. And if you would please comment down below, how do you evaluate whether your spell has been successful or if it's worked? I would really love to know, because this is how I evaluate it. And I'm sure that there are hundreds of thousands of ways that other people do this. So please tell me in the comments down below. Something I've learned in my spiritual journey is it's much easier to get what you want than to know what you want. A lot of people argue this point with me, but if you think about it, we have so many thoughts and emotions running through our head at any given time. And I think that there are often times in our life when we welcome the obstacles to what we want, because it's just so much easier to keep ourselves small. And so when I'm doing ritual, when I'm doing spell work, I have found that it's very important to ask myself, is there something that I might want instead? Because I learned this the hard way when I was trying to do a debt reduction spell, and it failed dismally, and I started packing on even more and more debt, and it was like really scary. And I realized it was because I wanted the debt. I wanted the punishment of it. I wanted to fail, because there are benefits to that. You know, if you're in debt, then somebody else has to take care of you, right? If you're in debt, then you can't go places. You have a ready-made excuse. So there are benefits to failure. There are. There's positives and negatives to everything that we do. But if you can finally hone in on what it is that you actually want and get it out of that subconscious realm and name it and own it, then you can change it. And so in my debt reduction spell, when I realized that what I wanted was the failure, what I wanted was the debt, what I wanted was the punishment, I was like, I don't want that anymore. That's not a good idea. That's not practical. That's not helping me. And I was able to change it. So now, having learned from that experience, I always ask myself, is there something else I might want instead? And so in this spell for self-respect, of wanting and manifesting that through taking care of my health and well-being, I answered this question by, well, I may want to watch TikTok and procrastinate and victimize myself. I love to victimize myself. Oh, I can't do it. I can't. I'm helpless. I'm hopeless. I'm a failure. I can't. I like doing that, because then I don't have to. I don't have to do. There's a sick joy from loafing around and making yourself feel miserable, you know? And I decided actually that I needed that I wanted a little bit of that. So, for example, I finally did the spell for health and well-being. Today, before I launched the spell, it was my first day off in quite some time at work. And I said to myself, my priorities today is this spell. But before I do that, I'm going to rest. I'm going to wake up whenever I wake up, and I'm going to journal in bed with my coffee and my cats. And I'm going to have that downtime. And I thought I would use it to kind of procrastinate and make myself feel miserable, but I didn't feel that I was making myself feel miserable. I was giving myself that time just to be, and that is something that I truly want. And so when you can find it, when you can own it, you can either embrace it or you can change it. So I like to think of energy being in terms of constructive energy that pushes you towards something, and destructive energy that that tears things down. Destructive energy shouldn't be something that we should be afraid of. There are times when that energy is very powerful and necessary, and that's the right course of action. And so whenever I do my spells, whenever I spend time to actually write about something that I want to manifest in my life, I always consider the obstacles. How I address this is by asking myself the question, what is preventing me from having what I want? I mentioned TikTok. I love TikTok so much. I love it so much. But, you know, you get on TikTok and it becomes addictive and you think you're going to be on there for a couple of minutes and like 3 hours go by. Am I the only one that does this? Anyway, so I put on there that distractions are a challenge to this desire that I have for my health and well-being. Take those obstacles and evaluate the constructive energy that can be harnessed within them. So, okay, the distractions. The distractions are a way to soothe my overactive mind. So there's a benefit there. There's something that can be harnessed there. There's constructive energy in that destruction. Another obstacle that has been a serious issue it's been a serious issue. Hi! I haven't made a video in like 5 months. Anyway, I have been experiencing a great deal of mental overwhelm. I think that my mental overwhelm may be tied to my job. And then with my job, I really struggled to find constructive energy there. I'll have more on my job later this year. I don't really want to talk about that now, but we'll get there. Stay tuned, like and subscribe. In the spell, I even write in this that I don't really have a lot of control over my circumstances at work. Sometimes, you know, you just have to acknowledge the obstacle. And the reality is that there's going to be days when did I mention that this is the first day off I've had in 12 days? This is actually not the longest stint I've done. I've actually gone, I think 22 days in a row without a day off was my longest. There's a lot of us in America that do that. It's not healthy. Don't do that. You need to take your time off. But my point of, tangent, okay, redirecting. And so the idea of identifying these obstacles is like, okay, this is an obstacle. You're going to run into this. It's going to be there. And there's not a lot that you can do about it. So when you run into it and you falter and you can't go to the gym and you can't meditate because you've been working 18 hours in a row for 22 days, know that when you get that day off, probably the first priority needs to be, okay, pet the cat, drink the coffee, and then go to the gym, maybe the next day. And before I end this video on spell work, which is, I'm so sorry that this is kind of chaotic. Like I normally really spend a lot of time scripting my videos, and I didn't do it for this because I'm like, no, I need to record videos. Just go and do it. But I wanted to talk about okay, so yeah, I have this current spell that I'm talking about today it's 10 pages long. It is, I know. I know, but I love to write though. That's me. But you know what? If your spells aren't written at all, if you are one of those people that can just do spells on the fly, oh my God, good for you. Wonderful, right? Magic is what you do. It's not what you believe. So I just want to put it out there that however you do your magic is how you do your magic. And it doesn't have to be so goddamn serious. Oh my God, I just swore on YouTube. Sorry. You got to put a little bit of your personality in there. You got to make it fun, I think, that's one of the fairy values. Pleasure. You've got to make the experience of magic, I think, pleasurable, and I don't think it has to be so serious all the time. A lot of people want to say, oh, you have to do it this way, and you need all these you don't need anything. You need whatever you need. What I did to clear the space, to prepare it, to make it sacred, to raise the energy, is I vacuumed while playing Aretha Franklin. That's what I did. I would show it on YouTube, except I can't because it's protected property. So there you go. But what I'm saying is that you have to make it meaningful to you. That's the most important thing about spell work. So yes, so I'm back. I recorded a video. It's kind of bad. I'm sorry about that. I will have more organized videos coming for you in the future. But just, I want you to remember, magic is what you do. It's not what you believe. And so tell me what you do. I want to know. And with that, have a magical day. May I move forward this day with respect for myself. I am worthy. And if any entities were trapped by my workings here today, may you partake of this energy and be gone.